So we're live on LinkedIn. We're live on YouTube. Now we're gonna be live on LinkedIn in a second. And then I'm gonna be sending a message to people on WhatsApp. And then we will have the show that we deserve. That's right. We will have the show that we deserve. And there we go, live on LinkedIn. Let me send the message to people on WhatsApp. There we go. The WhatsApp message. 208th episode. There it goes. Done. Message to people sent. Live on YouTube, live on LinkedIn. Now let's have the show that we deserve. Let us have the show that we deserve. The show that we deserve. Right? Let me check myself on YouTube. Yeah, that's good. Let me check myself on LinkedIn. Yeah, great. Sounds good. If you can hear me, give me a cheer. And then we will have the show that we deserve. The show that we deserve. Bum bum bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We're working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. Well, not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our weekly mental workout, our weekly dose of insights and analysis that don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines, things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go! Oh, but before we go, we gotta follow a tradition, right? You know the tradition. You know the sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip. We'll all sip something together and it'll bring us good luck, as it always does, without fail, every day. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup or mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein, a canteen jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. I like some hot water with black pepper in it. And here we go. Beautiful. Let's do it again. It's wonderful. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You know what it says? It says that you are not alone. It says that we are in this together, which is such a beautiful thing to say. With that out of the way, let's begin. Before we begin with the analysis, let's pay our tributes. Mr. Robert Duvall passed away. Robert Duvall, the multiple Oscar-winning, extraordinary actor. He played the consigliere at Godfather. If you remember, he was the lawyer of the Corleone family. That was not just the only role, of course. Apocalypse Now, the Judge. There was this beautiful movie called A Civil Action with John Travolta. It was 1997. A great movie. It's part of the legal curriculum in Howard, I guess. It's just beautiful. The story, it's amazing, it's extraordinary, it's very subtle, very brilliant. The kind of movie which makes you think a lot. It's beautiful. And the work which he did over the course of, let's say, 70 years is just incredible. So when I think about Robert Duvall, when I think about Gene Hackman, Dustin Hoffman, these three friends, I wrote an article about it. They built a career together, and they were one of the like three of the black sheeps. Nobody believed in them. They were least likely to succeed according to their acting school. But the way they've built their careers, and they just kept doing what they liked, and they just didn't stop at all, which is extraordinary. So if you look at Mr. Robert Duvall, his last movie came out in 2022, right? Gene Hackman, Dustin Hoffman, sir, is still working and at 88, and he's coming out with actually good movies as an independent guy. Dustin Hoffman, is basically Master Shifu from Kung Fu Panda, Rain Man, Kramer versus Kramer, Marriage Story, I'm sorry, the Meyerowitz stories, and so on and so forth. So what I really liked is, just imagine living a life where you start doing something when you're 20, okay? And you keep doing that till you're 90. Just imagine how beautiful that life is when you just don't stop, you don't feel like stopping, and just keep doing something that you started doing as a 20-year-old. 70 years later, you're just at it, right? And you like doing it, and this is your life. I mean, you start working and you don't want to retire because it's all fun. If you just love doing your work, right? And that is your entire life. And in your sunset years, in the final years of yours, even then you're just making movies, right? You're liking it. Robert Redford, Mr. Robert Redford, also passed away recently. The same, right? They came out with their movies 6 or 7 years ago, and it's just like 90-year-old men doing what they love and making a career which is not really a career, which is just like breathing for them, right? They just, if you think about people who has that career, it's extremely exceptional, right? So in the world of finance, you will see maybe Warren Buffett, Mr. Warren Buffett definitely has that career, right? 90 years old. His senior also, they just kept doing what they wanted to do, and they didn't stop. And even at 90, in the world of music, you will have perhaps Iron Maiden, right? A band, they've been playing for like 40, 50 years on stage, right? And the kind of stuff they play, you can't play at 20 or 30. It's so heavy, it's so high energy. I mean, you really have to, you really need some very, very good fitness levels to play the kind of stuff they play at 70, right? So it's just beautiful and it's very inspiring. So if you're looking to watch some Robert Duvall movies to come to grips with his greatness, of course, Godfather Part 1 is something that everybody knows about, but then you can watch Civil Action, you can watch Phenomenon, you can watch Judge, you can watch a lot of movies, Apocalypse Now, and so on and so forth. So rest in peace, great life, very inspiring. And with that, let's come forward. Let's begin with the analysis, right? Gold went up yet again. We've been talking about how gold is the hedge against global uncertainty. That sort of is playing out very, very well, right? It's pretty predictable how gold will go, where gold will go, if anything happens in the world. So currently, the Russian-Ukraine war negotiations fell apart, and as they fell apart, gold came up. Then Iran talked about blocking Strait of Hormuz, right, and the whole nuclear deal that US is trying to push on them. The gold went up, although it's been extremely volatile, but gold has still given returns of 7% month on month. Let's check. So gold is up 5-6% in a monthly basis. In 6 months, it's up 50%. Year to date, 1 year, it's 70%. So it's beautiful, very nice, right? Even though from its highs, gold has come down. The highs were 495, it's 460 right now. So you can imagine some 12%, which is exactly what I told you is the limit to what you can lose when it comes to gold. Silver, on the other hand, has been extremely volatile. It's from its highs of 105, it's down at 71, so that's 35%. Right? Silver's volatility is, of course, something that's going on. The things that we've been talking about, the TF tracker that we've been seeing, it's beautiful. It's working out very well. So if you've been looking at that, the shipping companies are on a roll, right? They're doing well. Uh, of course, Shelly is also picked up in the past month. Then Ether is continuing its streak. A lot of companies uh, are continuing their streak. So we're doing very well when it comes to our predictions and analysis. And there are a lot of comments as well on the sheet, which is very nice. So a lot of people said that we should also have our conversations around lens cart and so on and so forth uh, in the fray. Like things we said won't work out and which didn't. Like we said, Ola Electric will not be doing well, and then other things that we said IT won't work, and IT just fell off the cliff, right? And every analyst, every financial analyst said that they had bottomed out the daily moving averages and shit like that. And I said that do not invest in IT because it just can't go anywhere, and it will go anywhere, and then there'll be no place to hide, right? And that's exactly what happened. So it's one thinker's frequency and zero analysts there when it comes to the call of ITs, right? IT stocks. That said, we don't want to list those things because uh, it's not for intellectual masturbation. It's not, an ego boost exercise. We don't want to boost our egos. What we want to do very clearly is, uh, you know, give returns or see returns which help our fellow viewer of Thinker's Frequency pair his debt. So the question was, he had 10 lakhs of debt which needed to be serviced urgently, and he had 1 lakh in the reserves, with 1.5 lakh getting added in the you know uh, during the course of the year. So there's basically 2 lakhs which you have, and you want to somehow, uh, you know, have a 5x play as soon as possible. Ideally, a year, but however it can happen. So that's the goal. And for a 5x return, we need some multi baggers and we need some stable generating plays, right? So you have some stable generating plays like Airtel. You've got, some banking play, which is going well, by the way. I told you banking is going to pick up. And banking has a lot of things that are going to go up. We need more multi baggers. We are hoping for something to happen when it comes to GLE. A lot of our previous calls that we had made over the course of 6 months have done very well, but we've not really been tracking their share price movement essentially. So they're still fresh for us. Otherwise, Shelly we would have counted as a win. So our agenda is to find multi baggers of tomorrow, so that our fellow viewer of Thinker's Frequency can be helped. So this is the clear. So we'll not try to have some ego boost done on the tracker itself, right? Where we list, oh, this was going to go down. Were we short? We were not. So what's the point? That said, last week a lot of things happened. AI Summit happened, of course, right? AI Summit, and then Global Business Summit happened. So first discussion about AI Summit was around how IT is gonna fare, how IT has an existential threat when it comes to the AI agentic era that is upon us, right? Mr. Vinod Khosla says that IT might not exist till 2030. Of course, the IT guys say that's not true. There's a $1.5 trillion in industry, and then agentic AI is about 200 300 billion dollars, and to implement that you need this. It's not a binary, and so on and so forth. Mr. Vinod Khosla has also said that in the era of AI, it's possible that you do not need to work at all, right? Work might become uh, obsolete essentially. You do not need to work because AI produces so much of abundance, and then everybody has what they want, and then you do not need to work. Well, I should clear out my thoughts on that. I think that's total bullshit. It's absolute bullshit, right? It's Why is it bullshit? Because even if AI leads to a lot of abundance, even if AI leads to a lot of, you know, it negative inflation, brings the cost down of things, it becomes things to get for easier. A lot of abundance, a lot of uh, scarcity is unnatural in this world, right? So there's premium tequila, right? The price of that is not going to come down because the scarcity of that particular product is artificial. It's by design scarce. Some experiences are exclusionary in nature, right? Those clubs, those services, those experiences, they are finite, and they are finite by design to exclude other people, right? And that exclusion will always lead to some sort of divide. And as that divide exists, work will have to exist so that people can cross that divide and go to the other side. There's What these people are trying to draw is like a future vision of communism, that AI makes work obsolete. Instead of governments, you have these big tech companies who have all the wealth of the world, and they divide the wealth across people. That is a total bunch of bullshit, and nobody should be uh, you know uh, falling for that crap. Now, why are these people giving that bullshit, right? It's because the job losses are going to be so apparent, right? And as those job losses become apparent, and tech being responsible for those job losses, that part will be clear for everybody. Tech will be antagonized in a way that's pretty much unprecedented, and they want to flip that antagonism into something that is sort of benevolent in nature. They say this is it, right? Nobody needs to work is better than tech is killing jobs, right? Because still people are going to be working, and people will have to work, right, to cross that artificial scarcity for a lot of things. So they're just trying to play a perception game, which is pretty pathetic but not uncharacteristic, right? So that said, there's also a lot of debate around how India fares when it comes to this particular AI paradigm, right? Will India be another tech colony like Europe? Europe is a tech colony. It was first a tech colony of America, now it's a tech colony of China. Will India be another tech colony? Because most of the frontier models, most of the foundational models are being used by Indians, right? Facebook, uh, Google, and all of these people, they have their engines set, and India is basically a data harvesting market for them. And would that continue? If it continues, what's the future of India? Is a very big question. So a lot of people say no. There's a lot of AI layers, so it's just the foundational layer that these people have. The application layer is still India's, and that's gonna be very helpful. Again, that is a short cop out kind of a way. Yes, there are different layers. Yes, there's application layer, and application layers will have a lot of say when it comes to the market dynamics. But there's also a concern that the frontier guys, the models, these people will get on the application layers, because you know they're not making money fundamentally. And then there's of course the whole play where all of it is pretty inflated, and you don't know exactly what these the productivity changes really are. So those are the macros of the whole play. Again, this brings us to our very very regular or very quintessential insight that we rely on. It's that uh, businesses are outcomes of political will, right? So it's all politics, and how politics essentially takes a look at AI, and how it basically leads to AI as a as an industry. right? So we were just discussing, let's say, as music goes, right? Right now, there's a lot of AI music. A lot of people have started making their own music using apps like Suno, and then they just put it out, right? Nothing happens to that, but they just put it out. They put out a few prompts, and that's it. So instead of listening to new music, they are making music, or at least in part, right? And then that music is going out on the platforms and then competing with real musicians who are creating music because they love it, right? Now, what happens is the musicians are having to fight with AI when it comes to, uh, you know, when it comes to attention, because there is a way of discovery, right, of music. And in that way of discovery, let's say you have radio, you have Spotify playlist or whatever, you find out that this particular music, you hear it, you like it, and you find out that this is AI instead. And that can keep going on because you have Spotify and they can feed in their own AI songs and so on and so forth. And people wouldn't know that they're listening to AI, but they are. And humans will lose out on it. That's the game, right? There's a context that you only listen to art, or you only pay attention to art which has a human story behind it, which has human depth. You don't like art, you like the artist. And that's why you like the art, which is a fair perspective. Although it doesn't have anything to do with the discovery of the art piece itself, right? So the passive listeners, they don't care, but the power listeners, they actually care about the artist. So let's get them aside and let's talk about the passive listeners, which is the bulk of the market, right? What does the government have to do in order to actually kill this whole AI business, right? When it comes to music, in the case I told you about, they just need to order a segregation of AI music from human music. That's all. So if the government says that, hey, whatever AI music you're making, it's beautiful, very well done, you've just got to park it in the AI play, and you cannot be clubbing it with the human music, right? And that's it. So AI generated music goes on the side, and then it becomes a very different paradigm on what kind of stuff people want to listen to. Do they like listening to AI music? Do they like listening to humans? That bit will be clear, but you won't be able to seep in the AI music with the rest of the music, and that will essentially kill the game, right? So it's just a policy decision which will decide the entire fate of the industry. Now, when that happens, how that happens, what leads to it, is a question that nobody can answer, right? It's a question of time, so time will tell. But that's how it is. So even in videos, right now what they're saying is that you remove deepfake, you remove AI videos and label them as AI. That's what the government is up to, right? And these tech companies are resisting because they know that it's going to hurt their business and so on and so forth. But if the government has labeled it that this is AI, you got to market, and there's no way you can escape, right? And if you escape, there's going to be penalties to it. Then it's going to be on people whether they like looking at those AI videos. That's it, right? There's going to be a section of all AI videos. Basically, businesses are the result of political will, and it's on politics uh, about where these things go, right? So it's not Adam Smith's invisible hand is a total myth, and that is going to decide the future of business and work more than the technology itself. So, with that, this is a big debate, Mr. Vinod Khosla. Uh, there's also a perspective of Mr. Nikesh Arora, the former head of SoftBank, currently Palo Alto Networks head. He says that AI is good for, so he runs a cybersecurity company right now, and he says that AI is good for the regular sport, right? But not edge cases. And that is a fair estimation of what AI is all about. It is not a play of edge cases, right? And if it's not a play of edge cases, uh, you've got to understand how much it limits the whole paradigm, right? If your work involves little to no human oversight, it's a repeat kind of a play. then of course, there's trouble. But in a place like cybersecurity, he says that 80% of jobs are not going anywhere. So that's his perspective. He also invested in Anthropic a few rounds ago, and let's see what happens when it comes to that. So my company came out. We're doing very well. We created digital avatars. We calling it the future of digital profiles, right? Where you can build your own digital profile, and that profile will do everything for you. It will be a talking website. People will be able to talk to you, talk to your avatar. It will be built on your knowledge base. It will be able to sell for you. It will be able to uh, you know do everything. Essentially, it's the future of your profile. So everything that you're doing on the internet, it'll be able to do for you. And then of course, if you have a large community, you will be able to monetize that community, because those people will be able to connect with each other, and when they do, you're going to get paid for it. So we are building the future of digital profiles powered by AI, which we believe is a pretty good use case for companies and people, where they create their own digital profiles and those profiles work for them, right? Just like a website used to work for you, but in a much, much bigger way. So let's see how that goes. It's going very well. I am Ahmedabad as a client. So let's see how that catches up. So that was a big discussion on AI and right, the whole paradigm. There was also a global business summit that happened, which a lot of bullshit was spoken. Like there needs to be responsible commerce. Climate goals need to be responsibly handled. This is just a bunch of bullshit cliches, right? So we're not going to talk about that. Let's talk about the happenings. India's spend on Russian oils has fallen to 2 billion euros in January. China's has picked up by 30%. India's has fallen, right, by half. In December it was 4 billion, and it's right now $2 billion. So Indian crude purchases are going down. As the Iranian conflict happened, if you look at the price movement, the oil marketing companies sort of felt the strain, but the oil uh, exploring companies, right, they picked up, because when the oil price goes up, right, the oil marketing companies margins go down and their earnings get affected, but the explorers, right, they pick up, so their price went up by 5 to 7% uh, as this particular crisis unfolded. And that's how you look at this particular thing. So when oil becomes more expensive, Indian Oil, BPCL, and all these people go down, but other people, the you know the core explorers and so on and so forth, they pick up. So that's exactly what happened. We've talked about this at Thinkers Frequency. There's no news about it. Let's move forward. uh, there's a lot of talk about Reliance puts $110 billion on table, joins Adani and Tata in big ticket AI build out, aim to reduce costs with slew of data centers. A lot of data centers. The unfortunate part about data centers is that it's good for real estate, it's good for some sort of development in the play, but there's a lot of not a lot of jobs that get built because of data centers. In fact, little to no jobs are created when you build a data center, which is not a good play. So that is a slight concern, but that's going on. And let's move on. Yeah, crude shock, of course, we've talked about that. The markets went on a tumble. Indian tax firms dive into gulf of opportunity. Advisory companies setting up basic new levies. Compliance rules per demand across the countries in the region. So this is an extension of the advisory consulting market that India really wanted to grow. India says that it's a $240 billion market, and even though India is a service heavy company, it's not been able to take a look at this particular market. It's not been able to capture this market globally, right? So it's a pretty in situ kind of a thing, which will change. Let's move on, folks. FPI in India is highest at 10 months. So there's a lot of rigmarole that's been going on. Of course, FPIs have been net sellers, and it's been a very bad situation, But now things are changing. It looks like they are. So they were basically waiting and watching. So in the first half of the week, it came out that these people were looking at, you know, their negative bets had sort of calmed down. So their negative bets had been trimmed down. They were yet not bullish, and now they're turning bullish. So it's not like things have changed, right? It's not like we're reeling under FPI madness, but it's that it's changing. So largest flows went to capital goods, financials, and oil and gas in H1 of February, as they put 33,000 crore across 15 sector. Of course, they sold IT, right? Uh, let's move on. This is when the analysts had told them that IT would be a good bet. I wonder why they didn't listen to it, or are they listen, or are they watching Thinker's Frequency? All the FPIs, yeah. Well, let's move on. There's a lot of rigmarole when it comes to Trump and Gaza play, right? Very weird situation. We're not gonna talk about that. Okay. Philippines Aboitiz in talks for majority stake in fourth partner, right? Hyderabad-based renewables producer looking at partial exits. So this is again a renewable energy M&A play that's happening. Early backers of Hyderabad-based looking for partial exits. Aboit's Power is, by the way, Philippines, one of the largest players in Philippines, and fourth energy partner majority stake acquisition. Investments in fourth partner have been 4,000 crores, upwards of 4,000 crores. Aboitiz has $4 billion worth of revenue. Fourth partner energy portfolio is 1.5 gigawatts, right? So for Aboitiz is looking at acquisition of a 1.5 gigawatt of energy portfolio. With their capacity target, fourth partner's capacity target is about 9 gigawatts. So that's what's going on. This is another trend that a lot of acquisitions, a lot of M&As are happening in the power sector, of course, and it is to be seen how we can actually benefit from it. So let's look at Swan Energy's share price. Hasn't done anything. It was acquired, some stake was acquired by Blackstone or a private equity player a year ago. No, it's not. It's negative 10% and negative 11% 5 years. So Swan Energy has not done anything. There must be an opportunity in investing in power, which we are not seeing as yet, but which exists, because it is definitely a very, very hot market, and it's gonna be, right? So let's move on. Inox GFL wins bid for Wind World units to take over power generation O&M business of debt-laden company under insolvency resolution. Speaking of insolvency resolution, there's a lot of happenings when it comes to that play. NCLT has been advised to not look at the paying capacity of the lender. It's just to look at the default play, which is going to quicken the resolution process. IDRCL has settled 2 insolvency cases, first since inception, right? There is an asset reconstruction bank, right, and which is basically looking at speeding the whole process of insolvency and bankruptcy proceedings of these companies. The managing arm of NARCL, National Asset Reconstruction Limited, has settled 330 crores to banks from resolutions of Mednair and Helios Photovoltaic. So this is very important. This particular play, when these bankruptcy proceedings have cleaned a lot of banking books, which is making it easier for them to actually function, right? So banks are in the best health that they've been in the last, let's say, 10 to 12 years. And a lot has to do with how these bad loans and they have been written off and they've been cleared off and so on and so forth. So let's move on. Unilever is looking at sharpening India play with premium and Q-commerce push. I did not know that Unilever's US share sale is 21% and India is 12%, which is huge, right? Now Unilever is looking at mid, early, somewhere around 5 to 7% of growth and a lot of premiumization. That's what Madam Priya Nair is tasked to do. Let's see how that plays out. Renault is looking at enlarging the EV and hybrid range Europe as sales climb. French automaker Renault, it would revive the sales, right? This is in stark contrast with what happened to Stellantis as the stock fell down 26% as it wrote off some $22 billion in EV investments because it said that EVs are not really making money and EVs have sort of saturated in the European markets. So that was Stellantis. But Renault says that it's going heavy. Let's see what happens. EVs represent 14% of total sales by volume and 30% hybrids. Renault's strategy is in stark contrast, right? 3% rise in sales last year to $58 billion euros, or is it pounds? $68 billion essentially. So that's what's happening. Renault says it's succeeding. It's got to be looked at with a pinch of salt. I don't believe it's true. You can share your thoughts. Let's move on, folks. Builders go green as India zeroes on emission cuts. Most opt for pre-certifications. Urban infrastructure expected to see relief. This is just a development on how these people are looking at, green equipment, let's say green building materials and how they're becoming core to construction, right? Green building materials market growing at a CAGR of 12%. Green certified buildings command rental premiums of 10 to 20%, target of 40% embodied carbon reduction, right? So that's what's looking at. Do you know any green building materials company? Well, that could be a nice bet because this particular play, the CAGR, might just hit teens, right, in times to come because this particular market. So if you look at the housing market growth is all about premium and ultra premium, right? 50 lakhs and lower housing units priced at 50 lakhs or lower actually degrow to 7% by 7% year on year basis. So less and less number of small units or modestly priced units are selling. More and more premium units are selling. As premium units keep selling, right? The demand for green building materials companies products will be high, and as that goes, this could be a stable 20 to 30% kind of a return generating asset class. So I'm not sure where of companies related to this play, although I know a lot of private companies. I'm not sure of publicly listed companies in the green building materials play, right? But that could be a market to watch out because not just housing real estate. If you look at commercial real estate, which is growing because of GCCs, my father worked in a building materials company, a Kuwait-based multi-billion-dollar group, Al Safari Group, and they had. So I know about this industry, but I'm not sure of where to punt when it comes to this particular play. So if anybody has any thoughts, do share, right? Coke and Mondelez say India as a top priority market. Well, why wouldn't they? Coke has sold their bottling operations to Jubilant Bhartiya for 12,500 crores, right? And now they're optimizing their operations. So let's see what happens. Moving on. Golf tees off a new course of Capital Edge Mass Connect. People say golf is shedding its elite image and becoming mainstream. Well, I don't buy this shit, right? But some companies, Indian Golf Premier League has secured $100 million in franchise commitments over 10 years. Professional Golf Tour India's 72 The League has also looking at some commercial inflows. Well, golf as a tournament and golf as a league has a lot of potential, and India is warming up to it. I know companies that deal with events around golfs. So, what they do is they just get these rich old people together and they hold events for them, which are sort of networking activities, but with golf as the anchor. And that is obviously a very good business, right? $100 million. uh, Investment in golf comes sports sponsorship industry, which grew only 6% year on year, by the way. 16,000 crores. 85% of it obviously goes to cricket. So 16,000 crores is the Indian sponsorship, sponsorship opportunity, out of which 85%, which is basically what? uh, 12 13,000 crores, that goes to cricket, and rest of this is maybe going to kabaddi and so on and so forth, a lot of new sports, right? So that's what's going on. Let's move on, folks. Dr. Reddy's Zydus biosimilar for IKS. Dr. Reddy's expand HRT segment, hormone replacement therapy. A lot of action happening as far as Indian pharma is considered, right? They're trying to be more than just, you know, generics manufacturers. Although we got to see how any of those efforts pan out. Let's move on, folks. PSBs may approach RBI seeking changes in climate finance rules. Current framework lacks incentives to promote wider adoption of green deposits. Right? This particular paradigm is essentially going bleak when you talk about green deposits, when you talk about ESG, when you talk about DEI. All of those investments as financial instruments, they are losing steam. DEI, of course, faster than ESG, but ESG is as well losing steam, right? So a lot of banking play is looking at getting reshuffled as this particular paradigm becomes less and less important. And this again is the result of what? You know what is the what it is the result of, right? Give me a cheer. Why do you think the ESG play is changing? Why do you think ESG is falling out of flavor globally, right? Any thoughts on it, folks? You know about it. You know about it. We've talked about this, right? Some of the key demands from banks include reduction in CRR for green deposits, right? CRR is mandated at 3. A lower CRR improves liquidity for banks, so they're talking about more liquidity. Anybody? Why is ESG falling out of flavor? ESG mobilized a lot of money for a long time, right? A lot of money for a very long time, and now it's not. I mean, now it's basically starting to clip off, right? In fact, if I say this, I'm gonna give it away, so I'm just gonna wait for a few seconds. But now it's not happening like that. So, in fact, US essentially changed the emission norms for cars and trucks. Did you know that? So, as US for the AI play, says Mr. Tushar Tiwari. No, no, no. It's political will, right? Because the US political dispensation believes that the US has been shortchanged on the green energy lie, and they are more towards getting the cheapest energy from wherever possible, right? It's basically losing flavor. So America just announced that there's not going to be emission norms for cars and trucks and so on and so forth, right? That's essentially political play affecting business once again, right? So that's what's happening. Garden Reach GRSE is getting Navratna status. That's what's gonna happen. Income grew 39% in FY25 and 27 Navratna companies. Let's look at GRSE stock. We've been talking about shipbuilding as an industry, and GRSE. Let's look at a monthly. In a month it went up 7.2%, although the highs were much high. So from 2764 it's down to 2400. So it basically went up by 20%. In 6 months, it's not up. And from a year perspective, it's 81% up. So shipbuilding, uh, doing really, really well. In 5 years, it's 1100% up. I invested in GRSE 5 years ago. Shipbuilding, of course, has a lot to do. Permanent magnet production is going to begin in 2026 itself, says the mines minister, Mr. Kishan Reddy. This is obviously a response to what happened because of China, the permanent magnet play. Even though the total quantum of magnets, money wise, is not a lot, 326 right crores, but it's a lot of money still. So, local magnet production to begin. Mr. Ankur Pandit writes, geopolitical development. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Let's move on. Silver soared 7.3%. If you look at the price movement of silver, it's almost like a meme coin. It's like a shit coin, right? It's very, very, very volatile. Let's move on. FPIs buy the most since April 2025. We've talked about what did they exit? IT, FMCG, healthcare, consumer durables, telecommunications. Why consumer durables? Can you see why consumer durables might just be in trouble for now? I mean, can you guess why consumer durables, the guys who are into ACs, refrigerators, and so on and so forth, why would they be slightly in trouble? Can you guess, folks? Let's say Havells, Voltas, all those people. Uh, can you guess why they would be slightly worried, right? Can you guess? I can't give you the hint because if I give you the hint, it'll be just giving it away, right? But it is a pretty interesting thing. We've talked about this. This happened. I can give you this hint. This happened because of good monsoons. Something happened because of good monsoons, and that sort of affected a lot of these companies. Earth is getting cooler, says Mr. Tushar Tiwari. Well, that's a good answer. Directionally right, of course. So what happens is the winter elongation, right? The winter extension has led to uh, the summer product inventory not getting cleared, and as that doesn't get cleared, it's gonna be slightly troubling, right? So these people say no, it's okay, it's gonna get cleared, right, by March and so on and so forth, but till it doesn't, and even if it gets hurt a little bit, you see what happens. So Havells is the best particular play in this domain. Let's see what happens to its stock. In the last 6 months, it's down 10%. In the last year, it's down 8%. And the last 5 years, it's up only 22%. So it's been in the toilet, right? And it's, a lot. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not happy, by the way. I really love those guys. Havells, by the way, is a very good book. If you want to read about an Indian business success story, not just a success story, if you want to really get your mind blown, the biography of Keemat Rai Gupta, the book name is called The Untold Story of Keemat Rai Gupta, and Mr. Keemat Rai Gupta, the founder of Havells, his son has written that book, Mr. Anil Rai Gupta, as a tribute to his father, and it's a beautiful book, very heavy, and it's not written, like an author. It's not written very well, if you can say that, but it's so tight. The book story is so incredibly tight that you would just love it. I was blown to pieces as I read that book. So I'm very, very proud of Havells, you can say. It's a beautiful company. But stock is in the toilet. Speaking of stock, Naukri came out with its earnings, right? So with all the fears around recruitment troubles, Naukri's numbers were tight. So recruitment numbers went up by 10%. So they grew revenue, they grew earnings 10%. But if you look at Naukri stock, you'll be very, very scared right now. So Naukri stock is not doing well. Not doing well, right? In 5 years, it's given a return of 5%, right? In 1 year, it's down 28%. In 6 months, it's down 21%. So stock is like, this. Why? Because it's getting clubbed with the IT outsourcing story, and because it's a part of that whole IT thing in India, right? It's also bearing the brunt despite its earnings going well. So this tells you how you can get affected by the macro story even if your fundamentals are very tight, right? So that's what's happening with Naukri. Only 5% up since 5 years. Let's move on, folks. And nobody would even touch it, by the way, because of the whole scare around the recruitment play. Even though the numbers are going up, nobody would touch it. And again, I'm very, very bullish about Naukri in general because of Sanjeev Bikhchandani sir and everybody else, right? So let's move on. Bajaj Finserv is looking at launching a $1 billion alternate investment platform, right? It's more towards VCPE. That's what they are looking at. Let's see what happens with that. Focus on asset quality to keep MAS Financial Services in good stead. Company has reported double-digit growth in assets, revenue, profit. Hopes to have 1 lakh crore in assets by 2036. Well, who's seen 2036? Not me. But the company says that they're doing well. Is it a good bet? Financial services, highly regulated, very volatile. Can't be sure. I'll say no. Let's move on. But yeah, I mean, if you got to look at that story in a very deep way, the company has reported double-digit growth in disbursement and improving margin profile. 1 lakh crore in consolidated assets under management by 2036 from 14,000 crores right now. So let's see. Moving on. I told you about Supreme Court's order to NCLT saying that they don't have to examine a company's ability to pay debt while admitting plea. Ola Electric share, store count is going down to 550. Last year they said that they're going to raise the store count by to 4,000. Well, that is out of the way. Now the company is barely, it's surviving. It's in dire straits. Ola Electric, which is one of the very big predictions that I had made in 2020 itself. Right, 2021, 2020. That's when these people were beginning the whole play, and I told you. I mean, the writing is there on the internet. Why people are canceling clubs. It's one of my very, very viral articles. In that, I had mentioned clearly that this is another shit show, which is a story for another time, and that's how it has panned out. And I've written many articles comparing Ola and Ather's journey. It's pretty much a David and Goliath journey. That these people came out with a lot of money. Ather grew step by step, and now Ather has, done very well, and that is. Sooner or later, the world find its way back to common sense. All you got to do is wait. So if you look at Ather stock, by the way, 140% in a year, in 6 months, up by 74%. So, holy shit. For this quarter, Ola Electric has more loss than revenue. Is that true? So, the numbers are, they had 487 crore in losses, and revenue is 470 crore. So you will write. Mr. Tushar Tiwari is right. I did not notice that they had more loss than revenue. Well, all you got to give credit to Mr. Bhavish Agrawal is that he could raise money for something so outlandish. I mean, the investors who invested in it, right? Just because he had a marketing platform, right, which was Ola, right? Investors thought that he could actually also make scooties, right, which is a totally different business, totally different dynamics, and he could spend money in it, right, in the face of people like TVS, Bajaj, and everybody else, and Hero, right? That was hilarious, like trying to uh, do a geo in electric vehicles. It was very funny, but investors, they have the money, so they did what they did. Paint companies see bright finish in March. Winter extension led to their fortunes hurting as well, but they see some growth when it comes to the next quarter. So let's see how that plays out. Let's move on, folks. Ola Electric, man. All you got to think about is, if you look at Mr. Bhavish Agrawal's career, okay? So you're not, no judgments on anybody, but if you look at his career, right? As an entrepreneur, let's say you're running a small shop. So it's not like you're not negative commenting anybody, right? It's just an unbiased look at somebody's career. This guy started Ola, right? Raised $3 billion. I don't know, 3.4, $3.5 billion, a lot of $1 billion on Ola. The company never made money, right? The company is in the toilet. The company could just raise money and burn money. Okay, that's what it did, right? Then this person started something called a scooty company, which raised a lot of money, and again it just burnt money, right? And then this person started an AI infrastructure company, which is till now burning money, right? And has raised now. What is this? I mean, how? What do you call this person? You call this person a visionary for being able to successfully raise a lot of money? Would you call this person lucky? Would you call the investors who invested in his companies idiots? Or is it just randomness playing out and you don't know anything, right? It could be anybody, right? It could be anybody who raised a lot of money, burnt that money to the ground, moved on to another company, raised a lot of money. It could be anybody, right? There's no sign of intelligence here. There's no sign of genius. There's no sign of pioneering anything. There's no sign of actually building something worthwhile. There's no sign of anything, right? It's just raising money. Would you call him, I mean, would you call him lucky? For sure. Would you call him successful? Although, but personally, he's done very well personally, right? Extremely well. So despite all the failures, and unequivocal failure, I mean, it's just clear. Would it be a success story? Still, would Mr. Bhavish Agrawal be a success story? That's a very good question in current day and age, right? Same goes for everybody else in the play. Let's move on. We've talked about these conversations. This is very well done. But it's startling. I mean, fundraising play is just fascinating, right? And if I get $1 billion today and I start absolutely, I've raised a lot of money. I'm drawing a great salary. It's just unbelievable. My company is making losses. My company continues to make losses for 7 years, 10 years, right? And then I move on to do the next best thing. So it's just absolutely weird. Anyway, let's move on, folks. Apple slices ESG head from salaries of Cook and top executives. That's what we were talking about. Bitcoin, by the way, is in the toilet. Let's check. Bitcoin price. Yeah. It is not doing well. 27% down month on month. 38% down 6 months. 61 lakhs. Although it's big, the bottom was 58 lakhs. Let's see where Bitcoin goes. MicroStrategy is obviously done. It's very weird. Let's move on. What's the time right now? It's 9:22. Although I have tried to be very thorough, I'm just taking a look at something I might have missed. Space investments are pretty solid. Global tech giants line up investments and tie-ups in AI space. Google, Nvidia, Microsoft, amongst other, announced commitments in infra, scientific research, and cloud. $15 billion in AI hub Vishakhapatnam, Google, right? 30 million research challenge, and so on and so forth. Yota is investing $2 billion in its chip. So, the beauty of space research is that it saves a lot of money. So, these people who are building in space, they say that when you're building in space, there's direct communications market, right? All the research, all the investments that go into making space play, they also work in communications, the whole satellite play, and so on and so forth. Then there's also some sort of manufacturing benefits which you get when it comes to making space oriented investments. So I'll tell you that. So they say that if you develop something in space, a chip developed in space because of microgravity has better conduction properties than what you create on Earth, right? So that's another play. Then there is, I am missing out on a few details. I'll come back to them. Please remind me to come back to them. But space as a frontier is kicking in. Indian startups have also raised some significant amount of money when it comes to space expeditions, right? Not human expeditions, of course, but yeah. Let's move on. Vari armed to set up battery gigafactory in Andhra. I just don't want to. So HMT land bank is to be used for AI clusters in India. HMT is Hindustan Machine Tools. It is an ailing PSU, but it has the second largest land bank in the country after railways. Did you know that? Did you know that HMT had second largest land bank next to railways? Well, that they are basically going to be leasing them out to AI clusters, and that is going to free up a lot of real estate for these AI investments, because a large part of this is land acquisition troubles. So that's gonna happen. Let's move on, folks. There is another MNE deal happening in health. Warburg Pincus is in advanced talks to buy Integrace Health for 1,200 crores. Formulations maker, revenue 300 crore, EBITDA of 60 to 70 crores. 300 crores getting a multiple of 4 FY26. Warburg Pincus is looking at taking it over. Let's move on. Servam has unveiled two LLMs. They're doing well, I've heard. UK is also looking at a blanket ban on social networking below age 16. Let's see how that particular thing plays out. In GFL, 1900 crore bid. Cochin Shipyard backs $360 million in order from a French firm. Their order book will be 23,000 crores in a while. So that's Cochin Shipyard, 23,000 crores. Let's look at Cochin Shipyard stock, folks. We've talked about this. It is in our tracker, right? So it's down in 6 months. It's rising up. Last month, it's up by 4.5%. Let's see what happens to shipbuilding as an industry. Should be up. That's our bet. Let's look at what happens to these people. Let's move on. A lot of steel companies joining IPO to raise 7,000 crores. We've talked about that. Steel companies, by the way, did well because of the duty, the protection duty that was brought in place, you know, to safeguard the natural and national steel production. But then there's something gonna be CBAM, which has to do with emissions and so on and so forth when it comes to export to Europe. That's gonna still affect the steel players, but for now they've been doing very very well, right? So that's what's playing out, right? And then of course the duty uh, can be lifted, right? So there's that overhang, but for now steel companies have are in green. Let's move on. We've talked about that. M&A funding open ups $15 billion opportunity for banks. We've talked about this. The RBI mandate for banks to go ahead with M&A as an opportunity is at least a $15 billion opportunity. Strong bank balance sheets and investment banking muscle to help big lenders make the best of chance. 35%. So total India's M&A play is $50 billion. 35 to 40% is bankable, right? Our rules allow up to 75% deal funding, exposure to 20% of tier 1. So banks are gonna gain because of this particular play. We've talked about this. This is just gonna be happening in times to come, right? We've talked about steel play, CBAM, carbon border adjustment mechanism came into effect in January 1. EU importers are required to start reporting emissions. That's going to hurt the metals player, but for now they're doing well because of the domestic steel prices have rebounded sharply after government reinstated the safeguard duty, as I told you. So this is what happened. China started sending their steel off from Nepal and every place else, and government had to protect their steel, so they placed a safeguard duty. As safeguard duty came along, steel prices went up, steel companies felt good. January 1 got CBAM with the EU thing, right? The carbon border adjustment mechanism. As that happened, the steel companies sort of got, not just steel, metal companies sort of got careful because now those emissions are going to be taking, way. But as that happens, the glitter is pretty good. So Vedanta is 33% up. Hindustan Zinc 23% up, Tata Steel 20%, sale in 3 month period, 14% Hindalco. Everybody basically is doing well. Let's move on. FMCG, urban growth has pushed aside rural growth. Rural growth dips to 3.6%, momentum to strengthen in 2026. FMCG companies, yeah. FedEx plans 2,500 crore air cargo hub at NMIA, right? Navi Mumbai International Airport. This is obviously very important, as we've talked about. This is going to be in partnership with Adani Group. The second play, first is infrastructure, the groundwork of it. Logistics is very, very important. So the air cargo hub is going to be extremely important for the country, even though we know about how expensive it is to send things by a plane. Via plane, we know about 1.93 per kilometer per metric ton is railways, 11 rupees road, and then 66 rupees airway. Now that price is going to come down as the routes sort of diversify with the whole Ude Desh Ka Har Nagrik, the small routes and so on and so forth. That cargo thing is going to help. Let's move on, folks. Railway board orders crackdown on tender cartels. Well, so something weird is happening in the ethanol capacity market. So right now, India is mandated to have about 20% ethanol blend, right? Ethanol's production is actually surpassing that, absorption limit. So if you look at Capacity utilization as distilleries is set to remain tepid as new lines come on stream, while ethanol procurement is expected to rise only marginally. Right? Ethanol posing a lot of challenges. 20% is the mandate, right? Uh, India currently has annual ethanol production capacity of about 118 billion liters, which will expand to 21 billion liters, right? And this particular play, oil companies blended about 11 billion liters uh, in the ethanol year ending 2025 October. So now production is basically going 21 billion liters while the consumption is about 13 to 14, 15 billion liters. That means there's going to be a deflationary impact on the ethanol play. Uh, right? And India has obviously gotten a lot of pushback because of ethanol blending when it comes to fuel, right? Every 20% ethanol blend leads to 6% reduction in efficiency, and there's a lot of engine problems. It was a social media furor. Of course, Mr. Nitin Gadkari feels that it could go up to 100%, but at the moment it's going to screw everybody's cars, right? So you've got to have some sort of gradual implementation from 20%. It can go to 28%. It's supposed to happen this budget season or something of that sort. Nothing happened. So if you're going to stick with 20%, the car market will have to grow in order to accommodate the rise of ethanol production, and which is a very, very big problem. So new plants 21 billion, demand at 12 billion, right, liters, 20%. Policy, no move yet to raise blending beyond 20%. So this is very, very weird. Let's see how that plans out. What do you think is going to happen to ethanol? Is government going to go pedal to the metal when it comes to ethanol blending? I doubt it. I doubt it. They failed. It's obviously tough for the automotive companies, and it's not just tough for the automotive companies. Apparently, consumers are also not liking it. So if consumers are not liking it, it's going to be difficult for them to keep pushing it, which is sort of not easy. Let's move on. Skyroot is the company, $200 million for business expansion. Space tech startup, strong momentum, right? Founders own 26%. Only primary capital. Indian space economy may cross $44 billion by 2033, says the report. Valuation went up to $500 million in 2023, and now it's obviously way higher. This is awesome. I'm just gonna come to the whole mechanics of space tech and how it leads to better manufacturing. I'm just missing out a key detail, which I'm gonna come to that. Adani has pledged $100 billion for data infra. We've talked about that. Let's move on. A lot of politics, geopolitics, which we best not discuss. We've talked about longer winter pouring cold water on summer loading of consumer companies. We've talked about that. GCC spreading out to tier 2 cities, giving real estate a boost. We've talked about that. Jaipur, Kolkata, and so on and so forth. Right? 7 to 8% growth in tier 2 cities. Let's move on. India and Norway talking about rare earths and solar power. That's okay. Warehouses beat offices to become hottest reality bet. Well, who told you? Who told you? Warehouses are gonna go heavy. We have been talking about this for a very long time, for 6 months now, and that's coming to fruition. Warehousing is now a strategic economic infrastructure backed by manufacturing and e-commerce expansion. The first step is always the roads, right? The second step is warehousing. After logistics, warehousing is the usual beneficiary, and that's exactly what's happening. Although, and this particular bit is just gonna go to the sky, because India doesn't have a lot of warehouses per per capita, we are way behind China and US. So, and that's not analogy thinking, because we are going to be a product nation and all the investments in India are going towards that. So we're going to have an extreme demand when it comes to warehousing, and we don't have that. Speaking of that, a lot of companies are beginning to make containers in India. I'm going to come to that. So there should be some opportunities in warehousing. I'm going to keep my eyes open. If you find something else, right, let me know. uh, it's gonna be amazing, right? Some REITs are obviously related to warehousing beds, so we're gonna have to look at that. However, there should be something more direct, which settles it, right? So let's look at that. We're not gonna talk about Baiju's and Akash's case. Akash has gotten go ahead for the rights issue. Uh, Distributors turn to connected TV as pay TV users shrink. Pay TV users are shrinking. The TV broadcasters are losing money. It's a bloodbath. The distributors are basically looking at IPTVs, connected TVs, and so on and so forth. Right? FMCG is still going with the TV play, the linear TV, but linear TV is trying to now catch on the wave of this whole connected TV play, and their channels to be accessed via apps. So it's gonna be a very bad situation for these guys. Let's see what happens. India Inc. could be raising $100 billion as RBI eases ECB external commercial borrowing norms. We've been talking about this for 6 months, so we don't need to say more. Let's move on. Brokerages are a little sad because of the whole STT play, right? And a lot of there's STT, and then there's also so Grow, Angel One, Anand Rathi, stockbrokers, everybody. These people are in slight trouble because trading volumes are getting affected, right? Average the margin trading facility. Sequential increase in revenue was largely driven by increase in margin trading facility, which is going to be affected now, and average daily turnover segment is going to be slightly rising, but not that well. Uh, so a lot of these companies, these brokers, are basically looking at wealth management as a hedge against falling trading volumes in the face of whatever is happening in the FNO market. Because that provides the bulk of what they get. Let's move on. ATMs are going to get a fixed price. By the way, there's a very interesting scam that was happening in ATMs. I'm not sure if you know about it, but ATMs were having a power off scam. So what they used to be doing was that they used to withdraw money, and while they were withdrawing money, they used to switch off the power of the ATM. And as they did that, the bank used to have a debit thing, but it wasn't it wasn't a complete transaction. People used to be very happy. So that was the scam that was running, and RBI had mandated the bank to cover that, because you don't know how much of that is loss and how much of that is actual fraud. So you didn't know, but now they are basically putting a lid to it. They say that this particular fraud needs to be covered. This is one of the very interesting frauds when it comes to ATMs, right? Power of fraud, which is very new. By the way, banks are changing how they deal with ATMs. So instead of a transaction based model, there's going to be a flat fee. Flat fee is going to protect banks from volatility of what they're going to pay to the ATMs. And of course, it's going to bring in some sort of predictability in the whole operation. So let's see how that particular plays out. Because transactions, only some ATMs essentially, the service uniformity and so on didn't get maintained, and then of course transactions added volatility on the bank's books. They wanted to move away from that. Distribution premium play hold the key to Asian Paints growth story. Asian Paints obviously in a lot of trouble because a lot of new players coming in. JSW acquiring AkzoNobel, And then, of course, Birla coming out with its own paint play uh, to hurt Asian Paints. Let's see what's happening with Asian Paints stock. Asian Paints stock. 6 months, minus 6%. 1 year, 6% up. 5 years, flat, minus 0.7%. But very volatile. It was up to 3,000 approximately. That was the high. And now it's to 2,400. That essentially means it's down by 20% from the highs, right? Very volatile. Asian Paints, difficult place. Of course, new players coming in, very heavy pocketed, and so on and so forth. Let's move on. Let's move on, folks. IOCL, BPCL, HPCL doubled combined profit to 23,000 crores in December quarter. Earlier it was 11,000 crores. Why? Because the price of crude remained muted. They had their margins nice, right? Lower LPG, under recoveries, and so on and so forth. Let's move on. Yeah, so this is an interview with the CEO of Sabre Astronautics. He says there's gold rush in space because we're going to space because there's a lot of money. He says sending satellites up, not sending people. That's where the money is. Earlier satellites were about the size of a school bus. Now they are about the size of a toaster, making them viable for venture capital. Miniaturization of space, not the Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos that he says are valuable, right? Launch companies. The broader industry has 3 segments: rockets, satellites and operations, and data services. Advanced manufacturing in microgravity as an emerging area of commercial interests. Johnson & Johnson investing heavily in research in International Space Station, where he said microgravity enables perfect crystallization and potentially improved pharmaceuticals. Silicon chips manufactured in space could be significantly faster than those produced on Earth, right? He says there are risks. There's a lot of space debris because nobody owns space, right? So space things collide and so on and so forth. It causes a lot of problems. Space traffic is a bit of an issue. It's an open and gated community. So that is, the moon base and all. That's what he said. So microgravity, making under microgravity is a service that these people are offering. Pharmaceutical companies and silicon manufacturing companies are going to be benefiting. Did you know that? I did not actually. I found it very insightful. Let's move on. Yota is spending $2 billion on NVIDIA chips. That's okay. Emergent looking at $100 million of annual recurring revenue. Oh, this is very interesting. Warner Brothers has flipped channel from Netflix to Paramount. As you know, Paramount and Netflix were looking at acquiring Warner Brothers. Netflix had given a deal of $27 a share, $27.75. They had given a $27 for its, HBO Max streaming business, right? Only the streaming business. Paramount came out with $31 a share for the entire business. Netflix had given a big breakup fee, right, to walk away and so on and so forth. So that particular thing is back on the table. So Paramount increased its bid by $1 and Warner Brothers is forced to talk, as is its fiduciary duty to return well to its shareholders, right? So that's what's happening. It's possible that Larry Ellison's son scoops up Warner Brothers, the entire company, right? Very interesting. Let's move on. Let's move forward. There was a video of Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt AI created by C-Dance. C-Dance is a ByteDance AI video generator, right? The video took the internet by a storm. It really screwed everybody. People are definitely very scared. But the creator of Rick and Morty, she says, the writer and creator, she says it's boring, and it's art is personal, right? She says art is personal, and the appeal of the art is in the personality of it, just what we discussed. However, what's to be noted is uh, how many people care, right? Because the bottom of the pyramid doesn't care about the personality and the personal feel of art. They don't care about art. They just passive observers to whatever is being created. And if AI is being able to take that market away, what is left is a question. So let's move on, folks. High gold imports widen trade gap. Dalal Streets, I mean, India Incorp's earnings are going well, right? So that's news. The new age companies have given growth in the revenue front, especially Eternal, because it changed the way it was recording revenue. Right now, it's totally inventory led, which is scaled its revenue, right, in absolute terms. Let's move on. India is making a lot of progress infrastructurally. Northeast states getting highways where they can land planes and stuff. Nicobar port got a green signal from NGT, right? A lot of action. Let's move on, folks. Wholesale inflation touches 10-month high of 1.8%, still under limit, right? If you want to know where that inflation went, food categories remain deflation, right? Pulses, cereals 1.41, 11.1, vegetable prices 6.8, and staples, potato and all fell 38%. So more or less very deflationary. Not good news for the producers, of course, but anything inflation under 4% is good news, right? Let's move on. Torrent is looking at acquiring L&T's Nub Power for 6,889 crores. Another deal in the energy power generation play. A lot of PNE, M&A happening there. Let's move on. Carlsberg is going public in India. Carlsberg is looking at going public in India. Carlsberg is half of United Breweries in terms of revenue in the country, but UB's earnings, like the net profits, are basically just up 20 to 30%. So Carlsberg is comparable when it comes. So if you look at United Breweries, right, they have a market cap of 42,000 crores in India. Carlsberg is looking at a valuation of 30 to 35,000 crores. So it's into premium play, and you know where the money is when it comes to alcohol, only in the premium play. So that's what's happening. That's why they are going in India. Globally, these people are struggling, right? In the West, alcohol consumption is at a down low, and it's falling down irreversibly. India still has a lot of room for premiumization. That's why these people are looking at going up. Their sales are 8,000 crores, net profit 323 crore, which basically gives them how much is their revenue multiple? Some 4.5x. That's what they're looking at, right? Yeah, something like that. So let's move on. Carlsberg going public in India. Who would have thought? Active buyers go for premium homes. As I said, 50 lakh to 1 crore segment launches fell 9%. Sub 50 lakh housing launches fell 28%. The only money which is moving in real estate is over 1 CR, which is the premium play. Let's move on. In God They Trust, realtors are making a beeline for temple towns. They are facing sustained tourism, right? This was one of the dreams of PM Modi. He said India is a nation of temple tourism, right? And if we create ample opportunities around temple tourism, it's going to bring great prosperity to these far off places, and he's basically getting proven right. That's one of his interviews, which were done back in 2013, right, about the whole temple tourism. So his dream was to connect all the teeths by train. I don't know how far that has happened, but 9,000 new hotel rooms in these destinations by 2030, right? So Uttar Pradesh budget is going up, right? So that's what's going on. Serious amount of money being made. Let's move on. India is trying to ease the smaller small FDI investments. They want to bring them up. Press 3 note is not to be fiddled with for now. Press Note 3 is basically India's hedge against Chinese, what do you call them? Uh, you know, Questionable maneuvers. So to stop them, that's why I press Note 3. So Chinese investments are still coming, facing some sort of regulatory oversight, but they are coming out with something called de minimis. De minimis is perhaps Latin. It's basically minimum amount. So they're saying some minimum amount will be allowed to come without oversight, and that's gonna be much easier. It's gonna make any things very easy. Right now, case to case FDI clearance, right? It's a pain in the ass, man. So my company is getting money from US, right? As we are raising money, and just the compliance of it is so hard. I mean, you got to even though it's not a lot of money, it's not like we're raising hundreds of millions of dollars as yet. I mean, I hope we do, but we're not, right? So it's tiny amount of money, and we're just dragging on the whole compliance bit on the bank end, and it's just pain in the ass, man. Pain in the ass. So let's see. Automatic not for lower ticket deals in the neighborhood. Let's see how that particular thing pays out. KKR says they can deploy $20 billion in India. Let's move on in the next decade. NSC is facing another battle when it comes to going public. SEBI had given it clearance for the co-location scam, and then there's things that happened with NSC. It has gotten another writ petition from a lawyer who's 71. He says the way they channeled money and the way they basically dealt with the whole money laundering play, that is not clean, and this particular clean shit is not liable, and that's sort of held them back. They're trying to go public since 10 years. They've not been able to. Let's see how that particular plays out. Till the time this is all sorted, you know what's gonna happen, right? You know what's gonna happen, folks? You know what's gonna happen, don't you? We know about it. We know about it. What is it? What is it? Come on. Don't be shy. Don't be shy, folks. Lawyers will make money. Lawyers will make money. RMZ to pick up 51% stake in Signature Global's Gurgaon project for 1,200 crore. The founder of Signature Global added me on LinkedIn, by the way. I said, sir, I would like to talk to you about my startup in AI, and then he didn't reply. Man. But yeah. I seen bullshitting has a lot of value, right? So if you just write about some analysis and start every big shot tries to talk to you as like some analyst, and then you actually try to build something, and whoa, we can't talk to this guy. Oh, he's bullshitting. Oh, well, let's talk to him. It's like, oh, no. That's how it is. But anyway. Some money coming in from the Gulf in India. Relegate enterprises to demerge financial and insurance arms. Burmans are going to be demerging Relegate, right? And 2 listed entities to unlock value. That's going to happen. Relegate had a very big boardroom showdown between Madam Rashmi Saluja and the Burmans. Burmans eventually won. So that's what it is. Let's move on. NSE's plan hurt again, as I said. Statue. NSE changed only prices debiting dividend equivalent amounts directly from derivative traders account, including that of Agarwal. That's the case. Very complicated. It's eventually gonna settle. I shall start BS writing too. I am fluent in talking BS. Yes, absolutely. So if you start just writing, right? So we do thinkers frequency. We've been good with analysis. So you can't imagine the kind of people who added me and the kind of people who read me, right? Those top of the tree at the top of the world, like Vijay Shekhar Sharma, Mr. Vijay Shekhar Sharma, Paytm. He added me, right? And the likes. So everybody. But if I start posting analysis about Paytm, right? He's gonna suddenly reply to me. But if I'm trying to talk to him about something I'm building, right? It's gonna be, I don't think it's gonna, I mean, it hasn't yet. So it's just, it's very weird. But it is what it is. Building is hard. But that was always the case. Let's move on. New age IPO sizes shrink, choppy markets reshape pricing. Yes, of course. A lot of IPOs sort of repriced themselves, right? Brought down their initial ask and so on and so forth. That's going to continue. Blackstone leads $600 million in AI cloud company NESA at $1.4 billion enterprise value. Right? $600 million debt is also going to get raised. Let's move on. DP is trouble compliance wise. We know about that. China's earnings are not that great. So China's stock market is looking at trouble. Let's see how China faces this particular play. They're still making a lot of money. So it's not like President Xi Jinping came out and said the local demand will have to be spurred up, because Chinese local demand is a very small, Chinese domestic consumption is a very small part of their GDP, some 35 to 40%, less than 40%. So they say that has room to grow. India, by the way, has 70% of its economy under domestic consumption. So China is also looking at some sort of, flip when it comes to its construct, the economic construct, as exports become difficult in the era of localization. So let's see what happens there. Reserve Bank has restored default loss guarantees for NBFCs, so they'll be able to cut buffers, lend more, boost for digital lending. NBFCs, good news. Let's move on. Policy to boost local manufacturing of G-Next, railway, tech and parts and offering. Of course, railways is a play we've been very bullish on. We believe something should happen in the railways play. Extends the 2022 innovation policy with grants up to 1.5 crores for startup and small companies to develop prototypes. Let's see what happens there. But continuing on that BS part, building is always more fun. Even though it's much harder, even though it's, it has its own, I mean, people want to be away from somebody who's coming with their, as a salesman, right? And it's the opposite. So if you write an analysis, people from all over the world will start talking to you for no reason, like you're some sort of gyani, right? Maybe you are, maybe you're not, but it attracts a lot of people. But at the same time, if you start going seriously with your exercise, and then it becomes a very different exercise. Even then, it's a lot of fun, right? Building something from scratch, it's beautiful. There's a lot of art value there. Let's move on, folks. And that's why we do it. Because it's a lot of fun, right? 1.5 lakh crore road and railways projects get green signals, folks. Startup Fund of Fund, 10,000 crores also launched. Three highway projects, 11,000 crores. Road cum rail tunnel in Assam, 18,000 crores. Three multi-tracking projects in railway, 18,000 crores. So a lot of railway projects on, road projects on. Let's see what happens there. Government capex still going heavy. Private capex also catching up. No surprises. We've been talking about that for a very long time. Let's move on. I said global bullshit summit, but it was global business summit. Look at the things that these people are saying. Okay, we are in an era of reglobalization, not deglobalization. India, backbone of global research, right? Multipolarity is new world order, but without real rules, instability will always deepen, right? Japanese FDI is over 2.7 lakh crore. That's okay. Beauty tip to woo Gen Z and Alpha: keep your promise. India's long-term strategy bolsters global confidence. Industry Academy Alliance can sharpen talent edge. This is the kind of shit that these people perhaps paid to do. Oh man. Wow. I mean, if you have a stage, right? If you have a stage, why wouldn't you say something actually insightful? That's the play. That's my question. But you won't, right? But you won't. There's an interview about Haruki Murakami, right? Very nice interview. He says, I'm not a gifted writer, but I have this ability of actually closing my eyes or like open, just going inside this world of mine, this dream of mine, and it just takes me to places, and then what I have to do is just write about it. So I see things in my imagination, some weird things, right? So he's the writer of Norwegian Wood, Sputnik Sweetheart, IQ 84, Kafka on the Shore, and so on and so forth. He's written 40 books, right? Japanese author, very famous in the English world. I'm not much of a fan. I read Norwegian Wood and Sputnik Sweetheart. They were okay. Especially Norwegian Wood was like ripped off by Catcher in the Rye, from Catcher in the Rye. So I was like, what? But, he has this uncanny ability of looking at a world and then just writing about it. So that's called a gift. He says it's not a gift. Let's move on, folks. Loans against shares will be available for M&A. A lot of M&A activities are going to happen very, very solidly in India, right? That's good. Mizuho Bank is going to be heavy. Third largest bank of Japan. Avendus in their hands. They're going to be looking at a lot of deals. European Union and US going to open $60 trillion worth of market, says Mr. Peeyush Goyal. That's all right. That's all right. We've talked about Ola. Spinny has raised $170 million, right? I don't know why though. I told you about the earnings. Niti Aayog says something very insightful. They say India should move to high value items, electronics wise. Well, thank you, Niti Aayog. Right. RIL has secured US license to import Venezuelan crude. That's geopolitics playing out. Again, politics influencing business. No surprise. No surprise. The biggest lie that was told to the world of business is that they define what happens. It's just politics. It's just man on the wheel in the political world that decides what happens in the world of business. We are very, very small parts of what happens to our businesses, essentially. So I had to read a lot, right? Because of this whole global business summit and the whole AI summit. Wasted a lot of time. Airbnb is seeing 50% rise in booking in the December quarter. India, fastest growing countries in an origin basis, first time customers up 60%. That's huge. Uh, Airbnb stock, by the way, has not been doing well, if I remember correctly. Airbnb stock in a 5 year horizon is down 37%. In the last year, it's down 20%. So Airbnb stock is down the toilet. Did you know that? Unilever ice cream unit seeks to tap big India opportunity, demerge from HUL, will debut on exchanges. It's going public, of course. Let's move on. And that, my friends, is the end of the 208th episode of Thinker's Frequency, our weekly mental workout, our weekly dose of insights and analysis that don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. It's 10:08. We're gonna punch in. I wish you a beautiful day personally and professionally. I'll see you same place, same time next week. Hopefully. Please take care. I wish you luck. Have a great week. Bye bye. By the way, I should thank Mr. Tushar Tiwari and Mr. Ankur Pandit for being, and everybody else who joined. I hope you loved it. See you.